Hi all, this is Emma from Plan, Inspire, Create, and today I'm going to take you through the organise step of the Getting Things Done method. So this is the fourth video now in my Getting Things Done series of videos. The Getting Things Done method is a framework for kind of organising and tracking all the things that you've made a commitment to in your life and ensuring you can stay on track with them while clearing that kind of mental energy of trying to hold on to that information so that you can be kind of clearer and calmer. So I did an introductory video, if you haven't seen that, all about the Getting Things Done method. And then I took you through the first couple of steps. So firstly, I captured all the information that was kind of outstanding in my life that needed something doing with. And then I clarified it. So that means making decisions on what type of activity needs to be done with each one. So I was left at the end of the last video with a bunch of piles with some little post-its with different types of activities to do with each of them. So step 3 is the organise step, and that's the stage where we carry out each of those different types of activities and organise all the information into the systems that I'll show you in this video. So the most important stage before you can get organised is having the right systems in place. And the author of Getting Things Done, David Allen, says that all you really need for this are lists and folders. Now this can be physical or digital or a combination of the two, but I would say be a little bit cautious around digital systems because it can be a little bit out of sight, out of mind, and you need to ask yourself whether that information is just going to be closed away in a folder and not give you the actual prompt and reminder to do something with it. I personally use mostly physical, but I do use my Google Calendar as kind of my main scheduler. That goes kind of way into the future, and it means I can share it with my family and we can all see the same thing. And then I put that information into my physical planner as well nearer the times. That's just what I prefer to work from week to week. But I know that my kind of master calendar is digital. So when you get to this stage, you will have emptied your inbox of all the physical information that's come into your life, all the kind of thoughts, ideas, tasks, meetings, appointments, all those different types of things, and you'll be ready to kind of put them into your systems. So let me show you where I finished last time with my different categories. So you all remember in the last video that I showed you this Getting Things Done workflow, and this is how you make the decisions, and we came up with different piles of activities that corresponded with these kind of blue outcomes on the flow chart. So the do it now jobs we've already done, and the trash I've already sorted out and recycled and thrown things away. So the rest of these piles that you see here correspond to the other categories. In terms of things that aren't actually actionable right now, I've got my pile of reference materials that need to be filed away, and I've got my someday list. I've got a book plan that needs to be added to that. And then these 3 categories here are the things that are actionable. So these are projects that need to be broken down further. These are things that I've delegated that I just need to add onto a list to remind me to chase those up. And then these are things to be deferred, so either scheduled in my calendar or added to a list of next actions to complete. So I'm going to go through each of these in turn. I'm going to show you the systems that I've got set up for each of them, and I'm going to show you how I would work through the organising. Obviously, if you're doing this from week to week, your piles in theory aren't going to be as big because you will have been doing this as you've been going along. So this is more of an example if you're setting up a system from scratch, but it will teach you all the skills you need to keep it going on an ongoing basis. So I'm actually going to start with my pile of reference material because that gets a lot of the physical stuff filed and put away. So I'm going to move these other categories to one side. Okay, there are 2 main places where I file my physical information that's for reference. The first is in my family information binder. This is now full of obviously quite private information, so I'm not going to flip through this, but what I will do is show you a little preview of the video I made flipping through this before I'd filled in all the details, and I will leave a link to that down below. So this basically houses all the information that me or my family might need to know in a kind of emergency situation or should something go wrong. So the kind of categories in there cover emergency contacts, things for the home, so for example related to payments on the home, utilities, repairs, things like that, finances, anything to do with employment. There's a health section, a section for my dog, a section for the car, and then some other kind of ID and wills sections at the back. So that is my first system. My second system is I have this physical file box. So let me show you this. So I have this physical file box that I got from Amazon, and it just sits in my office. And when you take off the lid, it's got all these suspension folders inside. So let me give you a closer look. Here's what it looks like. Each of these files has got different information in, and I've put headings on there that make sense to us as a family. And these are kind of the longer term documents that wouldn't necessarily be the first thing you would pick up that are in that family information binder, which is kind of for first reference. This is kind of all the longer term things to do with insurances, the house, kind of things that are perhaps not this year's copies of contracts, but we might still need them. Stuff to do with employment that's longer term that you have to keep for so long. They all go in this file box, and each of them goes in one of these little suspension folders. And we've got these little labels that just snap on the top. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this big pile here, and I'm going to separate things into categories depending on where in the filing system they need to go. Okay, so I've now got 3 piles, which contradicts what I just said about having 2 main places to file things. This is a pile of medical information that I'm keeping in a separate folder that I take to and from my medical clinic. So they're going to be filed away with the rest of the letters. So I'll grab that. Okay, so that's done. And then I did what I actually said I would do, which is to separate these into 2 piles. So this is all to go in my family information binder, and this is all to go in my file box. So I'm going to do the information binder first. So let's put those to one side, and I'm just going to need my hole punch. So I've got my arc discband punch set to a 4 because that's the size of my folder. And then I'm just going to go ahead and punch these documents. And then I'm going to slot them into the relevant sections. What I'm going to find is there's probably some outdated information that needs moving into the file box. So for example, this is last year's home insurance. So I'm going to pull that out, and I don't actually need that anymore. So that's going to go into a trash pile. And I'm going to put the new one in its place. Same with my mortgage statement. It's going to go in there. Okay, so that's all filed. And I have another thing to add to the file box, which is an old mortgage statement, because I do want to keep it, but I've got the most recent things in here. So this can now go away. And we're on to the file box. So the first thing I'm going to do is go through this pile again and separate it into categories that correspond with these files. Okay, so I've got 6 different categories here. So the first is instruction manuals. They've got their own little section in here, so they'll just slot in. Then I've got some certificates. They will go in there. Then mortgage. It's going to go in there, and I just put things in date order, so the most recent thing is at the front. Then we've got car. And then pensions. First of October, 30th of October, 27th of October. And then we've got dentist. Just a receipt to go in there. that was there. So everything's now in this box. I can go ahead and put the lid back on and put it away. So you can see how quickly it is for me just to file away all that information, because all the kind of files and folders are set up and I just need to slot everything in. And then I know exactly where it is if I need to look back and reference it. So the other category is someday, in the area of things that aren't actionable. And I have a list in my getting things done section in my planner for someday maybe. So things that I know I can't commit to right now and I want to keep a track of and keep reviewing and seeing if it's something that I want to do in the future. So the thing I had to put on my someday maybe list was create book plan. So that's now captured, and every time I review what's happening on each of my lists, I can think about whether that's something I want to move to be a current project. So then we're on to things that are actionable, and I'm going to start first with things that take more than one step, so our projects. Let me get the list of those. Okay, so this pile of post-its was all a list of projects that I am working on at the moment that need capturing. So the very first thing you do with projects is you capture the outcome of the project, what you want to achieve, on a project list. And this gives one place for you to look at all the things you've got ongoing. And each week when you review it, you'll make sure that you're putting the next actions for that project on your next actions list so that things are moving forward. So the first thing I'm going to do is capture each of these things on my current projects list. There's only one thing on there currently, which is my shop relaunch, and all of these things need adding on there. So let me write them all down. Okay, so I can now get rid of all these post-its because the projects that I'm currently working on I've captured on this list. So this project list is really just an index, and what you want to do is break down each of these projects on a separate project page. So I'm going to grab some spare paper. And I'm probably going to give each of these projects half a page in here, and I'm going to break down what needs to be done on each one. Okay, so I've broken down 2 projects here that are both to do with the Autosphere, the other blog and podcast that I run with a friend. So the first one is I want to record an intro for that podcast. So I've broken down the different tasks that I think we need to do. So finding the music, scripting the intro, deciding who says what, recording it, editing it, and sharing it on the Google Drive. So these are all my actions. Then the same again, I want to rewrite our about page. So I want to rewrite the origins of the Autosphere blog, write my about section, Aaron to write his about section, write a kind of summary of each of us to include on blog posts and newsletters, then share that to the blog and share it to the Facebook page. So we're not going to do all these actions in one go. There's going to be an action on here which is the next feasible action that will be done next. So the idea is that you take it from here and you put it on your next actions list, which I will come to in a minute. So I'm going to leave it at that for now, and I'm going to do the rest of these off camera, but hopefully that gives you an idea of how you would break down your projects. And then what I do is I keep those project breakdowns behind the current projects list. So I've kind of got my index here, and then my page is breaking down those projects into more detail. And if I have any ideas about these projects, I'm just going to jot them down on the various project pages. Let's say if I had other project materials, I would add them in here. So for example, I'm redecorating my living room. Maybe I might have some swatches. I'm going to punch them and add them in here like little paint chip cards. Or maybe I've got pictures for inspiration. Maybe I've got a floor plan with dimensions. I would punch them and add them all in here so that everything to do with my projects is all in one place. So the next category is things that have been delegated to other people. So I have a little list here. I have this 4 boxes to a page. These 3 correspond to my next actions lists, which I'll come on to in a moment. Then I've got this little waiting for box at the bottom. So anything I've delegated, I put on here, and then each time I review my lists, I can check off whether that's been done, and if not, do I need to chase it up? Then I'll do that as an action. So on my waiting for list, I'm waiting for leather samples for a new planner. So we'll add that in there, and that's done. So the final category we've got to go to is those things that are deferred. So if we look again at the little flow chart, the things that we've deferred are those things that take longer than 2 minutes to do that I need to be the person to do. So with the things you've deferred, there's a decision you need to make here. Are they things that need to be done at a certain day or time? If so, you want to put them in your calendar. Otherwise, are they just things you need to get done as soon as you can possibly get them done? Then they will go on your next actions list. So you should resist the urge of putting things onto your calendar that aren't day or time specific. You want your calendar to be just containing those things that have to be done at a certain time or on a certain day, or information that you need to be reminded of on a specific day. So I'm going to sort through this list again and see if there's anything that needs to be added onto my calendar, and everything else I'm going to put on my next actions list. So here's how I've split my piles. This is all things that can just go on my next actions list. There's only one thing that actually needs adding to my calendar at this point, and that is to mark in my calendar when I'm going to exercise. Otherwise, it just doesn't get done. Like I said before, my Google Calendar is the main place that I put day and time specific information. It wouldn't normally look as busy as this, but I've been having to take different medications at different times that I don't normally take. So that's information that has gone in my calendar because it's day specific and time specific. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flick to next week, and I'm going to decide that Wednesdays, Fridays and Sundays are the days that I'm going to exercise at the moment. And I'm going to put in a standing appointment, and then each week I can move that if need be, but it's in there as an appointment because it's something that I need to get done on a specific day that is obviously at the moment just not happening. So, an event. So Wednesday, exercise. What I'm probably going to do is give this its own colour. Maybe exercise is green. And just put it as an all-day appointment. So when I'm breaking down what I'm going to do each week, I'll know that I need to schedule exercise on these specific days. And then I need to remember to make it repeat, so it repeats every week, and save. Then I'm going to do the same on Fridays, repeat it every week. And Sundays, exercise, repeat every week, colour code it, save. So that's now in my calendar. So that's all the things that I've got to schedule. The final pile is my list of next actions. So these are things that I need to do at some point, whenever the next available time I have. I'm going to look down my next actions list and I'm going to see, right, what can I get done next to move some of my projects forward? And that's the idea. So we're not clogging up our calendar with things that aren't day and time specific. You're going to have open chunks of time where you can look down your next actions list and see what you can get done. So if I flick to my next actions list, something that's suggested with your next actions list is splitting them into contexts. And what this means is different types of activities. And it helps you focus rather than switching between different types of tasks. So some common categories people might pick are, they might have a list for phone calls, they might have a list of things to do at their computer, an errands list, a list of things they have to do when they're at home, maybe a list of what David Allen calls agendas. So that would be a person-specific list. So next time you're speaking to that person or you're with that person, what are all the things you need to go through with them? So it helps you keep organised, and when you're in that particular context, you can get all those types of things done. That type of context didn't work for me, and I would suggest splitting it how it makes sense for you. It's not going to help if you just follow somebody's example, but it doesn't work for your types of tasks and how you're living your life. So I split mine into just 3 categories to keep it simple. The first one, I've got a list of things I need my husband for, so things we need to do together or things I need to talk to him about. So that's easy. And then the others I split into high energy and low energy tasks. And this is because I have chronic illnesses, and with chronic health, you can't really predict how you're going to feel on any particular day. So again, this is another argument for not scheduling absolutely everything. So when I have open time on a day, I'm going to flick to this list, and depending on how I'm feeling, I'm going to pick something from the high energy or the low energy list. And this is something that works a bit better for me. So if it's a day where I'm not feeling great, I can say, right, none of these high energy tasks are going to get done. Let's just focus on the low energy things. And if I could get 1 or 2 things done off there, then that's a success. So let me go down this list, and I'm going to split them into the various categories. Okay, so they're now all categorised on one of these 2 lists. There was nothing for the Liam list, you'll be pleased to know. And I had these 2 photos in here to scan, so I've put scan photos on the list, and then I'm actually just going to pop the photos in this pocket in my planner so that they're ready for when I do that task. So that's how I organise my items. As you can see, we'd already made all the decisions on them in the last stage, and it was really easy to just sit and work through each of the different activities in turn, doing kind of like tasks together, and that really sped things up because I could get into a flow with each one, and it was really easy for me to do. So really, things are going in one of 4 places for me. They're going in my family information binder, they're going in my file box, they're going in my planner on one of my lists, or they're going in my Google Calendar on my phone. And so between those 4 places, I'm storing all the information that I need related to kind of all the open tasks in my life that I need to keep track of. So in the next video, I'll be looking at the review stage, which is how you use these lists that you've created to make sure you're keeping on track. I'll give you an example of kind of a weekly review that I would complete and how that helps me make sure these lists are current and up to date, and how it helps me move towards completing my goals. So let me know what your systems are like. Do you use digital or physical? Is there anything you would take from this that you would maybe try in your own systems? If you like the video, please like it and consider subscribing if you're not a subscriber already. And I will see you on Sunday for the weekly review. Bye!